Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Point Over Books podcast. I am Lashawn, your host, and happy spring, friends. This basically means, it's a good thing, but it basically means that we have entered what we call the pollinating here in Atlanta area, where everything will be covered in green dust for the next few weeks, and the pollen count will climb somewhere north of 20,000. Today, for reference, I think it's already at 8,000 and it's at the beginning of the season. In fact, I am where I'm recording the podcast, I can look out into my backyard and there's literally a green haze in the air and everything is covered in green dust. I was out yesterday briefly doing my Sunday errands. I went inside of a store for I promise you 5 minutes. I came back. My car was covered in green. It is what it is, but allergies evidently become worse as you get older because I have had a low grade headache since last week, and the pollen has literally never bothered me in my entire very mature life. So, and I grew up in DC where pollen was ridiculous. But anyway, since it is spring, I wanted to talk about the spring books that are coming out. Usually, spring and fall are my favorite seasons for book releases, and summer too, but summer's different. But for the really, really exciting selections, that's when they usually come out. I usually don't read most of the spring selections until the summer anyway, so it kind of works out for me. This year, there are a few very, very good selections that I want to put on your radar for April and May. Spring is a short book season, but there are some good ones this year. And for reference, when I say spring, I am just counting April and May here because, frankly, by the time you get to Memorial Day, that's the start of summer reading season. So anything that comes out May 31st on until, like the end of August, that's summer reading, friends. But anyway, let's get back to today's topic, which is, of course, spring reading. So let's start with April. Now, the first book I want to talk about is American Fantasy by Emma Staub, which comes out April 7th. Uh, let's talk about it. A theme cruise, a 90s boy band reunion, and 3,000 screaming fans. This is not where Annie expected to find herself at 50, newly divorced and figuring out what's next. But once the music starts, something shifts, call it nostalgia, desire, or a long buried part of herself coming back to life, and suddenly Annie feels awake in a way she hasn't in years. And when she unexpectedly connects with one of the band members, it opens the door to something even bigger. This is a story about aging, desire, and the realization that it's never too late to rediscover who you are. I cannot wait to read this one. I am literally the demographic, so I love reading books about mature characters over 40. And the fact that she's 50, that's even better. The whole nostalgia thing with the boy band on a cruise, I can see it. I cannot wait for this one. It will probably be one of my summer books that I take with me on vacation or a long road trip, but I am so looking forward to that one. The next book on my list that I want to put on your radar is Rights of the Starling by Devney Perry, which comes out on April 7th. Also, this is the second in a series, so if you have not read the first one, I don't think my description is going to give any spoilers, but you might want to skip ahead. But anyway, Odessa's world is falling apart. The five kingdoms are on the brink of destruction, and in the chaos, she's been separated from the man she loves. Now she's hunted, exhausted, and forced to protect a child while navigating a world of monsters and power plays. Everyone expects her to become something, a queen, a spy, a sacrifice, but Odessa isn't sure who she is yet until one night changes everything. Faced with fear, truth, and her own hidden strength, she begins to wonder, what if embracing her power is the only way to save them all? And what if the real danger is what is inside of her? Ebony Perry is one of my favorite romance authors. My book friend Emily told me last year when the first book in this series was coming out. And I was like, I don't know, I don't know, because everybody was trying to delve into romanticy. But I gave it a chance because it was Devony Perry, and once I started reading, I could not put that book down. It was one of my surprise sleeper books of last year. So glad I picked it up, and as such, I have been waiting to find out what the next step in the story is. So I personally am very excited about this book, and yes, it is pre-ordered, and so it will be on its way to my house when it is released. The next book that I want to talk about is Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke, which comes out also on April 7th. That is a book heavy day. So is April 14th. But anyway, Natalie has built the perfect life, or at least the version her 8 million followers see. She's the ultimate trad wife, a rustic farmhouse, a handsome cowboy husband, 6 picture perfect kids, and an empire built on selling the dream. But behind the scenes is all carefully produced. Then one morning, everything shifts. She wakes up in a version of her life that feels off. No electricity, no polish, just survival. Her husband is different, her children are strangers, and the life she curated is gone. Now she's left asking, is this punishment, a test, or something else entirely? And more importantly, how does she get out? There seems to be like a trend right now. Not really, but I've noticed it. And I'm sure there are others of books about influencers. Specifically, lately, it's been books about the trad wife influencer and, how nothing is real. As I don't want to say I'm a former influencer, I prefer content creator. As a content creator, I can tell you that a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. And especially the people who have over 1 million followers, it's all curated, people. It's all curated. I'm not saying that it's not real, but it's curated. So that is just something I want to point out to everyone. Okay? Okay? All right. But I'm looking forward to that one. I'm curious enough to say that it will be on my TBR eventually sometime this year. The next book that is on my watch list that I want you to take note of is Witch Queen Rising by Savannah Stevens. And this comes out April 21st. So let's get into it. In New Orleans, becoming the prime, the ruler of the Witchkin, is the highest honor, but it was never meant for Seraphine. Once feared as the Tick Witch for her ability to consume magic, Fiend has always been an outcast. Now she's pulled back to claim a legacy tied to her mother's mysterious death and a past that she tried to escape. As a deadly curse spreads, Fiend must navigate dangerous politics, supernatural enemies, and old heartbreaks. To save her people, she'll have to face who she was and decide who she's willing to become. I'm going to go ahead and admit that the cover of this one is what made me add this to the list first. And then the fact that it is in my favorite city with witches, werewolves, and vampires. Oh my, all my favorites in one place. I was like, how can I not? Yeah. So for my fantasy or romantasy fellow friends, yes, we will be reading that one sooner rather than later. Okay. So the next book on my list is Last Night in Brooklyn by Xochitl Gonzalez. Comes out April 21st. Let's talk about it. It's 2007, and at 26, Alicia feels like her life is already decided, living at home, planning a safe future, and preparing to marry a doctor. But one night in Brooklyn changes everything. Drawn into the world of artists, ambition, and late night possibility, she becomes fascinated by Garza, a bold designer living the kind of fearless life Alicia has never imagined. As she gets pulled deeper into this orbit alongside her wealthy cousin, Alicia begins to question everything she thought she wanted. I don't know why this one really sounds really interesting to me, but I keep seeing it on all the list of books coming out in April, and I kept coming back to it. And I think I even put it on my most anticipated books of 2026 list. So I'm really, really excited about that. All right, let's move on to May. The first book in May that I want to talk about is Our Perfect Storm by the lovely Carly Fortune, which comes out on May 5th. Frankie and George have been best friends forever, messy, intense, and always finding their way back to each other. Until now. On the eve of her wedding, Frankie isn't even sure George will show up. He does, but the next morning, her fiance doesn't. He leaves her with nothing but a note. Heartbroken, Frankie retreats until George suggests something unexpected. Take the honeymoon anyway with him. What starts as a distraction becomes something deeper, forcing them to confront old wounds, buried feelings, and the truth about what they've always meant to each other. Listen, Carly Fortune is one of my go to autobi authors for summer reads, even though her books almost always come out in May. I'm including it here, but I can almost guarantee that it will be on my annual summer reading guide that comes out late May. So look for it again because Carly Fortune's books are always the perfect little beach read, poolside read, hammock read. They're just perfect for the summer. I adore them. The next book on my list is Fury Bound by Sable Sorensen, which also comes out May 5th. And let's talk about it. Mary never expected to wear the crown, but now she's inherited a kingdom on the brink of war. With distrust rising among her people and danger closing in, she must navigate deadly politics while protecting the ones she loves, including her vulnerable younger sister. And then there's Stark Theron, the powerful, dangerous alpha she once hated but may be the only person she can trust. As dark forces stir and power calls to her, Marin is forced with an impossible choice: save her kingdom, guard her heart, or risk losing both. There are a lot of sequels to first books in the romantasy world, right, coming out this spring, this year really, and this is my second most anticipated one of them all. Dire Bound was an unexpected find for me last year, just like the book I talked about earlier was, and I cannot wait to continue this story. I love it when books still have the power to surprise me, I think, even when I know all the tropes and angles. That's good writing. And in romantasy, especially good writing using the same tropes, but the tropes still surprise you, and that the writing is not written around the tropes is rare. It's not fast. I need to come up with another word for fast, the fast fashioning of books. But this book of, especially of romantasy and romance, but this is a prime example of people who are still writing good books. Anyway, the next book on my list is The Calamity Club by Catherine Stockert. That comes out May 5th. And this is this author's long awaited follow up to The Help, which was a huge success on page and on screen. I mean, who can forget? Let's talk about her new book. It's set in the 1930s Mississippi. This story follows three women whose lives collide in unexpected ways. There's Meg, an orphan who's learned not to rely on anyone, Bertie, an outspoken woman who begins to see through her sister's seemingly perfect life, and Charlie, a woman with nothing left to lose. As the Great Depression tightens its grip, three come together to fight for what's rightfully theirs, hatching a bold, risky plan in a world that gives women very little room to win. This is a story of resilience, friendship, and what happens when women decide they've had enough. I am looking forward to this one. I'm just looking forward to it. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. The next book I want to talk about is Score by Kennedy Ryan, which comes out on May 18th. They say you never forget your first love, and for Verity and Monk, that couldn't be more true. More than a decade after a devastating breakup, they're forced back into each other's orbit, working on a high profile Harlem Renaissance biopic. She's the writer, he's the musician behind the score. The chemistry is still there, but so is the hurt. As old wounds resurface, they have to decide, can they move forward for the sake of their careers? Or is there still something worth fighting between them? This is the second book in Kennedy Ryan's Hollywood Renaissance series, but I think you can read it as a standalone, meaning you don't have to read Real first to understand and enjoy this one. I am looking forward to this one. I have Real, and I am ashamed to say I have not read it. As a matter of fact, is it back here? No, I gotta find it. But I have Real, and I've been saving it and holding it, and I'm going to save it until right before this one comes out and read them both together because, that's the type of thing I do. Even though I've heard listening to it is the better experience. But anyway, the next book on my list is Seek the Traitor's Son by Veronica Roth, which comes out on May 12th. So this one caught my eye because Veronica Roth is the author of the Divergent series. And, if you don't know, Divergent, it's a movie, it's a series of movies now. It was like one of the first IA dystopian books out there that made everybody else want to write dystopian books. Yeah, heard that one and Hunger Games. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this one. Elegy An did not ask for destiny to find her. She's happy with her life as a soldier, defending her small country from the Tulasar, a powerful nation who worships a deadly fever, a fever that blesses half of its victims with mysterious gifts. But then she's summoned to hear prophecy. Her and the most ruthless of the Tulsa guards, Rava Vidar. Brought face to face, they learn that one of them will lead their people to victory over the other, but they don't know which one. And at the center of both their fates is a man that Elegy is told she will fall in love with. In just one day, Elegy's old life, her job, her purpose, and her future is over. She and Rava are destined to collide with the fate of their nations hanging in the balance. And when they do, only one will be left standing. Elegy intends to make sure it's her. I am curious about this one. Divergent was one of my favorite series when it came out until the last book. The last book, which is why I have trust issues. But despite all that, they were excellent. So I really want to see how this one goes. This one is not YA, it is adult. And I'm curious, I don't know if it is the beginning of a series or if it's a standalone. I will find out more closer to when the due date comes out, and that will determine when I read it or what the priority is in my reading experience, I might want to say. So that's a lot. That was just 5 books for each month. So 10 books total that you can look forward to adding onto your TBR. Bookmark this podcast for later or pre-order some of these books now. Like I said earlier, I may or may not have several already pre-ordered on their way or reserved at the library, because if you get in there early, sometimes they have those, like usually a month before they'll start having the libraries up. Have the books up in the library for reservation. The trick is the Kindle books are always the longest list. The ebooks are always the longest. The hardback, not so much. So I always go for the hardback personally. And usually about a month out, I start looking. Like soon there's like a couple of books for April that I'm getting ready to go look for, April and May that I'm getting ready to go look for now. So we'll see. Anyway, okay, now let's get into what is currently going on in my life. Currently, friends, I am loving, loving, loving those pork dumplings from Trader Joe's. Like, where have I been? Why didn't y'all tell me? In fact, I am making a trip to Tradarius Joseph today, and I will be buying the dumplings along with my oat milk creamer, the Brio tacos for my son, and of course, some flowers and whatever else Trader Joe's tells me that I need for my freezer. I know I'm late, but I picked them up on a whim last month and just tried them last week. So now I have to have like a backup stash in this house for when I get snacky, because they're a cute little afternoon snack. Really, really, they are little side salad maybe. And I think next time I get some, I'm going to make a dumpling soup. I really do. So that means that I need to get some of that chili sauce too while I'm at Trader Joe's. But anyway, I have not finished a book since our last chit chat last week. Wait, that's a lie. That is a lie. I have finished several, but there really is no need to chit chat about they were all romance novels. They were just quick things that got me distracted from other reading that I have been doing. Sometimes when I'm reading, I need a breakup. I don't know how else to put it. Sometimes I need like a distraction from what I'm reading to get me back on track for what I'm reading. I know my brain works weird. But anyway, I do want to let you know what I am still currently reading, all which are about 50%, I think, or more. So this is why I'm not reading anything new. So for my Kindle, I am at 78% on Half City by Kate Golden. I think I mentioned it last week. To quickly summarize again, it's a dark academia book where Viv, our main character, has a secret life as a demon hunter. And after years of hunting alone, following her father's murder, Viv is invited to enroll at Harkner Academy for Deviant Defense, a school that trains hunters like her. There's like found family, missing students, killing demons, and falling for one, of course. It is a slow burn romance, and right now we are currently at what I call stage 3 slow burn. They just kissed around 50%, I think. The mystery is ramping up, and I can already tell there is going to be a second book because I don't see how it's possible to wrap this up in the next 20% that's left. So, I do try to avoid series that don't have at least 2 books out these days. Here we are. Also on my Kindle, I'm sorry, is Mayhem and the Mortal by Shanora Williams, which came out last week. And let me tell you about it. Zara doesn't want a hero, she needs a weapon. To save her sister from a soul devouring curse, she has to cross the Shallows, a nightmare landscape of ruined magic, shifting paths, and vicious creatures that eat people alive. Her guide, Thane Valcor, sorcerer, assassin, and walking red flag. His name clears room, his magic kills quietly, and whatever he's really after, it's not salvation. He promises to help. He might even mean it. But Zara knows better than to trust a liar with a blade and ice in his veins. She just doesn't have a choice. I am at 28% of this book. The main male character is morally gray with magic and big muscles. The main female character is smart, but she does dumb things. She wears glasses. I love it here. Like literally, it is so cute. It is marketed as enemies to lovers romantasy, but frankly, after reading Daggermouth by H.M. Wolf, I am now highly skeptical of anything that is called enemies to lovers. I mean, if they're not trying to kill each other, they're not enemies. Usually one is just indifferent while the other is mad at perceived injustices. But okay, I digress. With this one, it's more of a trust issue. She's like sheltered. She's like this sweet, sheltered little thing who just wants to get her sister back. And, he's morally gray and she's just so sweet. It's hilarious. But, opposites attract. So that's what this is. This is more opposites attract. More, the big magical guy. Oh, he's actually not old either. He's the same age as her, which I can appreciate. They're both in their 20s. I'm like, yes, at least it's not like this old warlock who's in love with this young girl. But anyway, um, I'm enjoying it. I would have been finished. Like I would have been further along at least, but I got caught up on my audiobook and I cannot focus until I finish that one. That one really took off like Saturday afternoon and I haven't been able to focus since. My audiobook is Judge Stone by James Patterson and Viola Davis, friends. Now, friends, you normally wouldn't be able to get me to touch these new James Patterson and whatever celebrity he's quote unquote writing with a 10-foot pole. I used to love James Patterson. His early Alex Cross series, I have them all. But I fell off because they started feeling rushed and like he had a ghostwriter, frankly, because yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. But anyway, back to this one. I listened to a sample of this one because I saw that Viola Davis reads the audiobook and baby, I was hooked. You could not tear me away. I clicked buy and download so quickly. It was a shame. But let me give you the premise. The most respected citizen in Union Springs, Alabama, population 3,314, is Judge Mary Stone. She holds two responsibilities sacred: running her family farm and presiding over her courtroom. It's there she draws the most controversial case in the history of the South. Criminally, it's open and shut. Ethically, there's no middle ground. Essentially, it's a choice between life and death. But no judge can satisfy everyone. It would be dangerous to try. But Judge Stone is willing to fight to bring justice to the people and the place that she loves. The way Viola Davis reads this, I can practically see this like I am watching a movie and she is playing Judge Stone. In fact, I need her to make that happen expeditiously. This book is fast paced, it's a page turner, it's tense, it is all the things. I am tempted to get the ebook so just that I can finish quicker because I am at 66% now. And the thing we have been waiting for, all the novel is here, and I need to know what happens. But also, I want Viola Davis to read it to me, so here we are. I'll have my review of this up on my IG this week because I can already tell you at just 66% of the end that this is a book I'm going to highly recommend. I am determined to finish these 3 books, though, so I cannot tell you what the next book on my TBR is. Wait a minute. Yes, I can. The next book on my TBR is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. That is out today. It is a romance. I didn't mean to mention it. I forgot about it, but I'm gonna tell you what it's about based on what I remember. It's something about a guy who likes a girl and she really likes him too, and they're besties and they share a pet. They co-parent a pet, but on the night that they met, she went home with his best friend instead of him, hence the title. And now we get to see all the angst and yearning before the author finally puts them and us out of their misery and gives us a happily ever after. And I expect a whole lot of angst because that is what Abby Jimenez is good at. She is an autobi author for me, and frankly, it's going to be really hard not opening up this book and putting all the rest of what I'm reading aside before I finish the other ones I just talked about. But I am going to be strong, and this will be my weekend read. Plus, I do have to finish up the last chapter of Song of Solomon before our book club meeting on Thursday for March. Our May book, I guess I can say this now because I think this going to be the last episode of this month? Yes. Our book for April, if you want to join us, is Tar Baby by Toni Morrison. I, for some reason, thought it was Beloved, but no, it is Tar Baby is our next book. And I will leave a link to the book club and Tar Baby in the show notes, just in case you want to join us. I don't think I've read Tar Baby, or if I have, I've only read it once and now I don't remember what it's about. But so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to our book club meeting on Thursday because Song of Solomon was different from the first 2 books we read. And so I am very interested to see what our book club members thought. Anyway, okay, that is all I have for you today. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us grow and find other bookish friends. Okay, if you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pornovabookspod@gmail.com. And you can connect with me on my personal IG at Lashawn Wiltz or on TikTok under the same name. All right, friends. Thanks again for listening. Talk to you later. Bye bye.